I've got my trusty little funnel, if you will, here, and I assume if you are watching this musicality course, class, there's a class, live class. You're either really bored or you're stuck on something in musicality, and I'm here to help you out. So this works best if we are interactive, so please feel free to type in your questions. We've got Mr. Ben behind the camera. We've got Megan and Emily just off camera. They're going to jump in here and help me as needed. We're going to get their input as well. If you're watching, I want to make sure that you're doing a couple of different things. Number one, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do that. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a subscribe button just below this video. Click that. You'll get updated when videos go live, even when we mess up and put a test video that goes live. Anyways, so you'll get notified every time we have a video that goes live and or online, so subscribe to the channel. Number two, you're likely on our email list. If you are not, head on over to westcoastswingonline.com, enter your email address on the first page. You're going to get a couple of cool things. Number one, you will be part of our West Coast Swing Move of the Week Club, where we send out an email every other week with our best, coolest West Coast Swing pattern. And number two, there's three now while we're on lockdown. Number two, you are going to get access to a free membership to our website, westcoastswingonline.com. If you don't know, number one, we're the biggest West Coast Swing website with lots of cool stuff. There are 50 free videos over there for a free membership, including some new stuff that we're doing now. There are two-step videos, East Coast, nightclub, cha-cha, and more. Waltz to come. So the 50 free videos will include a splattering of different content. So if West Coast Swing is not your thing specifically, you'll still get some stuff. If West Coast Swing is your thing, we've got tons of stuff there. But we're here for musicality. So this video is titled, like, the places you're getting stuck in musicality. We just finished our second version of our Ultimate Guide to Musicality course. We did the very first version of this probably about 4 years ago. And over the years, we have taught literally thousands of people around the world, and hundreds of people have bought this course. We've taken the feedback and created an even better version of that course. We'll talk about that in a second. But here are the three places that people tend to be in musicality. So I want you to think in your head which of these three people you are, and you can type in the description which one you are, so we can get some feedback as to where to go with this course. So number one, the first thing is we have to hear the beat and count our patterns. So the biggest thing we've heard from our students over the years is, hey, I struggle with staying on time as my patterns get more difficult. So I escaped beginner class, I got to the intermediate class, I might even started doing some Jack and Jills, some competitions, but I really struggle with the timing of things as the patterns get more difficult, right? So that's the first thing. We're struggling with timing on some level, either in our beginner patterns or as we scale up the level of patterns we're dancing. Number two, and where I guess that this video is going to land, is really connecting to the music in a concept we call counting straight eights. So this is where we start to count the music differently. We'll talk about counting straight eights in just a second. But where we're not struggling with dancing everything on time, both as leaders and followers. We're really struggling in connecting to the music with our patterns and our movements and our styling, right? So this is the biggest struggle that I think, at least as we've released the second version of the Ultimate Guide to Musicality, our musicality course, the emails we've got are people that are being stuck in this area. They're good in dancing on time. They're really struggling with really connecting to the music. They might even intellectually understand it, but there are some struggles there. Then the final is mastering technique and music. This is a little bit of a higher level concept, probably one beyond this video, but if you have any specific questions, that's what we're here for. And this is where you are dancing everything on time, you're connecting to the music, you understand basic musicality, but you're trying to dig out some of the higher, more esoteric levels of your musicality. And this is really taking into account connection and styling and choices that you're making while you're trying to accent the music at a high level. So those are the three buckets that over the years, I think the numbers, I'm actually not a nerd, but I'm big into numbers, and I think I'm over 40,000 hours on the dance floor. We've taught literally hundreds of people this type of concept through our course, and probably thousands of people over the years through our classes, courses, private lessons, and everything. And we've been able to travel the world explain this to people. And these are the 3 buckets we've identified. And this gets to what I call numbers leave numbers, which is from a book. What's the book, Ben? The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin, which you haven't seen that is my favorite book and re-inspired me to dance professionally a couple years ago. And his concept, Josh Waitzkin is a chess champion, a jiu-jitsu black belt, and now a surfer. So he's about my age, and he's mastered 3 things to their highest level, and he's an expert in the learning process, hence the art of learning. The movie Searching for Bobby Fischer was after Josh Waitzkin, and he talks about a concept where numbers leave numbers, which means we use all these techniques and numbers and mathematical equations through here, but at some point, it just clicks in and flows, and that's the state that we're trying to get to, is to numbers leave numbers. So do we have any questions of where to start?
Nope, just people saying it's okay to be a nerd.
It's okay to be a nerd. It's okay to be a nerd. I'm not a nerd. I'm a little bit more of an art type person. Fun fact, I was an art major in college for my first year. And then I quickly shifted to be a business major. And then I jumped out of all that because I became a dancer. So really, I think I'm an artist at heart. Yeah, through my art. And then dancing is my way to be an artist. So if we're talking about hearing the beat and counting patterns, we are trying to master the ability to hear the music, hear the beat in the music. So if you can hear the beat in the music, tell me so, and we won't cover that anymore. But we cover that in our course where we talk about just basically hearing the music. We do music in our course, which is not something that's very practical in a video like this. But the biggest key here is hearing the music and then thinking about West Coast Swing in 2-beat increments. So what I mean by that is, and I'm going to take this off camera a little bit, and from a leader, I'll speak from a leader's perspective first, but and I'll use my sugar push for all of this as my workspace. Obviously, it still applies when we get to higher patterns. But in West Coast Swing, the first thing I want to do is be able to count my patterns. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. Of course, from the follower's perspective, it's the same thing. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to identify 2-beat increments in the music, right? So one of the first things, if you can dance your basic patterns and you're on time to the music, is to think about everything in 2-beat increments. 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. And as we release the second version of the musicality course, which Ben will drop a link to in the description below, we'll talk about that in a second, but we found that people were struggling with connecting to the music to begin with, right? So the workspace that we used is the sugar push. This can get super complicated super fast, so just dance the sugar push. Obviously, you probably can count this 4, 5, and 6 in normal numbers, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. But can you break away and dance it in 2-beat increments? 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. From the follower's perspective, same thing. 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. What you're going to find is the critical timing of swing dancing in general, whether it's East Coast Swing or Jive or West Coast Swing or Lindy Hop, 2, 4, 6, and 8 are always whole beats. So if we talk about a triple step, that's 3 steps in 2 beats of music, right? That would be like our anchor step, 1 and 2, or half beat, whole beat, right? So if we're dancing the follower's sugar push, we would dance whole, whole, half, whole, and then our triple step is half, whole. So thinking about that in 2-beat increments, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, or wholes and half beats, whole, whole, half, whole, half, whole. That will start to keep you on time. So if I can steal one of the girls, whoever's free, preferably without a mic, no microphone, we're good. So how would this apply? Obviously, sugar push, piece of cake, right? 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. If we slow this down, 1, 2, that's a whole beat. 1 and 2, that's a whole beat. 1 and 2. So what if we scale this up to something kind of crazy? 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2, right? So what happened there? We're going 1, 2. That's a whole beat. We're in a whip, but we're in a hustle whip. 1 and 2. Now I'm leading Megan for her turn on 2 walks. 1, 2. Now I'm actually over-rotating her anchor with a rock and go. 1 and 2. But she knows that that foot's always a 2. 1 and 2. Now we're going to go crazy and a little off script. 1, 2. And then a 1 and 2. Even though she's standing still, I'd be on the other foot, technically speaking. But the idea is that 1, 2, 1 and 2 will really, thank you, I'll bring you back a little bit. That will really connect your patterns to the music even as they scale up and become more complicated. So that is one of the big struggles. So I have yet to find someone who can count their West Coast Swing in 2-beat increments who is not on time consistently across the board and super comfortable. That's the first bucket, right? Let's make sure we can read that. That's the first bucket, hearing the beat, counting the patterns. Cool beans, bucket number 1. If you have any questions, type them in, because we're about to move to the second bucket. Number 2 is connecting to the music. This is what we call counting straight 8s. So the music works in 8-beat segments, right? And I'm not a musician, so if you are a musician, you probably think I'm a ding-a-ling, but I'm just a normal dancer who had to figure this out on the dance floor, right? So if we're dancing, our sugar pushes our workspace, and this is the biggest key. This came from the emails when we released the second version of the course. People were getting stuck here, so we're going to spend a little bit of time here mastering this part. So if I'm using my sugar push, right, we go 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. But the music goes to 8, 7, 8. But normally I would just be dancing my pattern again. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. Oh, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. Or from the follower side, same thing, right? But the music keeps going to 8. So this is the biggest struggle, is what we call counting straight 8s. So counting straight 8s would be this. And we're going to go, I'll do it, and then I'm going to go back and explain it. So if I'm counting straight 8s, I would go 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. Walk 7, 8, triple 1 and 2. Anchor 3 and 4. Walk 5, walk 6, triple 7 and 8. Anchor 1 and 2. Walk 3, walk 4, 5 and 6. Anchor 7 and 8. And eventually we come back to where I was walking 1, 2 in the music. However, just like when you guys started dancing and the beginning, it was, you probably had to count. If you guys had it, you had to count every single pattern, maybe out loud in the beginning, out loud, right? And then eventually that kind of goes away to where you kind of feel an internal metronome, but you don't have to physically count out loud, and you might not even need to count in your head. So at some point, it's the numbers to leave numbers, right? The walk, walk, triple step goes away, and you just start to feel how a sugar push feels, right? So that's the numbers, the technique, and then pretty soon it goes away. It leaves the numbers. It leaves having to think about the technique. But as we start to connect to the music through counting straight 8s, we have to then go through that process again with another level of technique, which is counting straight 8s. So now we'll do this from the leader's perspective. So this is your workspace, and this, in my experience, is where people really get caught up, and I'm going to cover a very specific question I got. We're going 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. Walk 7, 8, 1, and 2, 3, and 4. Walk 5, 6, 7, and 8. Anchor 1, and 2, and so forth. Yes? So you need to do that, and this is where people are getting hung up. They say, so you need to stay on that. Use the sugar push first. If you can master it in the sugar push, then start to dance your other basic patterns. If you can master it in your basic patterns, then start to do it in your more advanced patterns. Are you with me? Then we can talk about the third bucket, which is what to do with that when I get there. Do we have any questions? I can see Ben's face. A few questions. Great.
Talking about the rolling 8 counts and the counting in 2s, do you do both of those at the same time, or are they separate?
So do I count in 2-beat increments and my straight 8 counts? Do I do that at the same time? No. To me, I have to first count the music, right? I just have to feel that beat. Just enough to stay on time, right? Number 2, I'm going to start to think about it in 2-beat increments. And this is something that I didn't necessarily go through, but we developed this as a teaching tool by understanding swing dancing and keeping people on time. So we're still talking about that first bucket of staying on time and connecting your patterns to the music, right? So do I count straight eights at the same time? No, I have to master them sequentially, right? You can't do the sugar push, right side pass, then a hustle whip with a rock and go in a dip. You can't do it all at the same time, right? You have to kind of master the whip, master the hustle whip with a turn, understand what a rock and go is so you can end it on. So you have to level things up. So I would be counting 2-beat increments until I could do all of my patterns in 2-beat increments, until I could do that without thinking about it. Then I would go in to make sure I check all the boxes and go back to my sugar push. It's the easiest drill we've had. You don't have to worry about any turns, anything like that. I would be dancing my sugar push 3 and 4, 5 and 6, walk 7, 8, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. So stay on time first. Count 2-beat increments so you can stay on time no matter what your pattern is. Number 3, strip all that away. Use your sugar push follower side. 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. And the next stage, before I take the next question, the next stage is going to be to identify the 1. So the reason why we count straight eights is so we can start to identify things in the music that are important for that third bucket, which is the higher levels of musicality. So the next progression of the drill is this. I'll go back to leader side, it's my default side. The 1 is going to be the accent in the music a lot of the time. Not every time, but if I had to bet $100, I would bet on the 1 and I would win more often than I would lose. So here is your drill to accent the 1. 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. You get the idea. Literally, point. Why? Because I'm now doing my basic pattern. I'm counting straight eights, and then I'm starting to separate something from my basic footwork, which is literally just a point. So then it tells me, I'll go do it from the follower side. It tells me 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8, that I know that the 1 is there. I don't want to change anything yet. I want to confuse things. I go 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, 1 and 2. So this is the place that we found people were getting stuck the most, was identifying that 1. So you have to dance the straight eights till that's cold. Then you have to start to point on the 1. Why point on the 1? Because if you want to add a dip and a drop and a hit with the 1, it involves a bunch of different skills that you first have to identify where the 1 is until numbers leave numbers and you understand that cold. Do we have a question?
A few more.
Few more.
So going even beyond that, when the music's just starting, some people are having difficulty of knowing when to start dancing and counting.
That is perfect. So the question is, people are having trouble knowing when to start dancing and counting. And this comes back to hearing the beat in the music, right? So we have to start to, in our Ultimate Guide to Musicality, and I seem to be promoting that a lot because we have a ton of free stuff and we have some stuff that we charge for, and our Ultimate Guide courses are what we've put the most effort into and taken a lot of feedback, and we've really covered each of these steps, and each one takes a lot of time to uncover. So hearing the beat in the music, we've got a couple of drills where you play music and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you draw an 8. So you can start to understand how music is put together. So it starts to connect you to the music, right? That's number 1. So I have to be able to identify, then a kind of a 1 and 1A to that is understanding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which starts to connect us into 2-beat increments, which kind of finishes off this bucket, right? So if you're struggling with counting the music and you don't have $69 to buy the course, this is what you do. You listen to the songs and you count along, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just keep counting the sets of 8. Now, that's going to be confusing. You might get lost in the music, so you're going to restart the song. Pick a song that's super easy to hear. What's one that we used?
Have Fun Go Mad?
Have Fun Go Mad by Blair is one that we used. in our course. We used like 3 or 4 songs in that. But pick a song that the beat is easy to hear for you. To you, that beat feels clear. Listen to that song over and over. Master that song. Don't go into one of these crazy lyrical guitar strumming songs, but just master that. Listen to it in the car. Sit down and try to write the 8s out in the music. Understand the phrase changes. That gets a little bit away from the early stage, but you have to do that over and over, and you can do it for free in the car, in your CDs. Back in my day, I used to have a CD player, right? CDs. But then it was iPods, and now you can just put it on your iPhone, right? So you need to kind of just listen to a lot of music, and I'll tell you, without putting names out there, some of the best dancers that you'll see on YouTube, the best, the people that are the most brilliant at Jack and Jill's and musicality, some of them are my friends. I've spent quite a lot of time with them, and they spend an incredible amount of time listening to different kinds of music to understand music. So that's where I would start, number 1. We have a follow-up question to that?
So what if I'm a feeler dancer? I don't count because if I do, I won't be able to move.
So if you're a feel style dancer and you don't count, this person says, if they count, they're unable to move. And that's very much, I am too, a feeler type dancer. So I learned this from a mathematical sense because I had to uncover what was happening naturally in my ability, because I was not a musician, I don't have a background in that. So all this mumbo jumbo I talk about, I had to learn as a tool to give what I felt to my students, right? And that's, as a coach, what you try to do. You figure out what you do naturally, and you try to deconstruct it. And that's Josh Waitzkin, The Art of Learning. Read that book. He tries to deconstruct the art of learning. So you need to go back in and deconstruct music a little bit so that you understand what's going on. You find a nugget within that, and then go back to your feeling. Does that make sense? So if you get to a point that you're stuck, then you need to kind of stop, deconstruct what's going on, go back into that numbers thing, and maybe you don't need to count. Like for me, from very early on, I felt the music. Not in the beginning. If you watch my very first tapes, they were atrocious. Atrocious. They were on VHS tapes. They've been crushed and destroyed. Maybe not. No, there's still one that exists. It's terrible, but yes, it was terrible. The timing was awful. It was atrocious. But pretty quickly, I learned to feel the music. But at certain points, I had to go back in and deconstruct and understand. And to this day, I don't count straight 8s, but I feel the straight 8s the entire time. I am not going 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 1, 2. I'm not actually counting that in my head, but I've deconstructed it enough that I can feel it and live within it. So I would go back and deconstruct if you get stuck.
And the last one that we have, how do you know when you move from one bucket to the next?
Good question. How do you know when you move one bucket to the next? And this is why I actually chose to do this video, is I had some people that were getting stuck here, right? They were getting stuck where they said, hey, Brian, I got your counting the music. I count in 2-beat increments. I'm counting the straight 8s, and then I get lost. I get lost, right? I'm doing it, and then I lose track of it. Like in the beginning, you can count the music, and then you lose track of it, and it goes awry. So what was the question exactly? So I get it exactly?
How do you know when you move from one bucket?
How do you know when you move one to the next? You don't write me an email and say, I'm confused at this point, right? So I would stay within each element, right, long enough till you've put in enough time that it just goes away. It's what Josh Waitzkin calls numbers to leave numbers, where you intellectualize it. So can I do my basic patterns? Check. Can I do my basic patterns on time most of the time? Check. Can I do my more advanced patterns stay on time? Check. What if you get lost as you move to the advanced patterns? Stop, deconstruct. Now you got to count 2-beat increments, right? Okay, does that help? It will. Now you can dance more advanced patterns, you're staying on time. Now you're ready to connect all of that to the subtleties of the music. Well, now we need to stop again and understand straight 8s. So if you got that far, stop, play a song, a whole song. It's not a lot of time, but it's shocking how few people will play just a single song and do sugar pushes during the whole song, 7, 8, and point. If you can get through a whole song, pointing on every single one, you go, man, I got it. Next song, got it. Try a hard song, one that's not easy to understand. Got it. Cool. Now dance it with a partner. Got it, right? So you have to kind of progress. At some point, and that's the point of this video, you'll get stuck. And so you have to kind of take a step back and go, okay, I haven't mastered that. Let me go back. In routines, we always do this. If this move over here is the problem, everyone will spend their time figuring out this move. But as teachers, we know that the problem came probably slightly before that move. So look a little earlier in the process, go back to that until you can master that step, and then go ahead and try it. And expect to play that game. And this is the email that kind of inspired this video, was just that. He said, I've got this, but you're missing a video in between, Brian. You really haven't bridged the gap. And the answer wasn't, there is a gap between those two, and you have to actually play in this space and play in this space until you can move along. There is no like magic pill that gets you to the next level. So kind of work yourself up. If you get stuck, go back to the previous step, spend some more time there until the problem goes away, and then you level up to the next level. Is that all the questions? That's kind of like a magical place. So quick reiteration. It is right at the 30-minute mark. So this is the place, and this is the first part that all of us go through, hearing the beat, counting your patterns in 2-beat increments. Then we go to this is, I call the #1 key to musicality. We're really connecting to the music by learning to count straight eights. We've got a sugar push drill that walks you through. Then down here, we're mastering technique and music. And the reason why I say technique and music is we're mastering both. Because now your ability to move your body styling-wise really matters. Your high-level knowledge of music really matters. Like I said, the best of the best in the West Coast Swing world listen to a boatload of music. So not only do they just know the songs because they listen to them, but they've listened to so many songs that when they hear a song that they don't know very well, they're able to kind of innately feel what might happen. And then eventually numbers leave numbers. And this numbers leave numbers happens at each level. Eventually, you have to intellectualize the beat, and eventually you don't have to, right? Then you're dancing your patterns on beat, and you have to think about it, and eventually you don't have to. So this numbers to leave numbers happens at each step. And then not to sound like a commercial, but we only have 30 minutes here. We do have a course called The Ultimate Guide to Musicality that literally walks you through each step. I think there's 20 videos-ish, 18, 20 videos. It does include music. We use 3 different songs, and we listen to music in each step of these. We count the music out. We talk about high levels of understanding the music, and we have drills, most of which we've talked about here, but we apply those drills specifically all the way through this process. So if you're interested in that, Ben will drop the link in the description below. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Musicality, and it is 4-5 years, 40,000 hours on the dance floor, 40,000 years. 40,000 hours on the dance floor, I have counted. But more importantly, through the feedback like this over the years, we have kind of refined this process. So we redid the course just about 6 weeks ago, a month ago?
Not even.
Yeah. Like less than a month ago, we redid the course. We took everything we did previously that we knew. We took feedback from people, understood where they're getting stuck, and tried to create drills to move us through this process to get to where we just don't have to think about it. So, cool. If you have not yet done it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enter your email address on westcoastswingonline.com.
And shirts.
And buy one of Emily's cool t-shirts. So we've got these cool shirts in our store and YouTube. So YouTube/West Coast Swing Online. Below the video, if you're, oh, Megan's got one of her cool ones.
And there was a new one.
And there's a new one.
Inspired by Miss Megan.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Eat, sleep, dance, repeat. So there's some cool shirts, leaders and followers style, West Coast Swing and general dance stuff. Emily spent a lot of time curating some really cool designs. The shirts are legit. I wear my Dance West Coast Swing one all the time.
But there's the promo code
Oh!
starting tomorrow.
Promo code starting tomorrow, not even today.
Well, midnight. I didn't make the decision.
Starting at midnight. And the promo code is?
Freebie.
Freebie. Promo code freebie, and they get what, 10%
10%
off?
off.
10% off. So you can buy a West Coast Swing t-shirt or a dance-related t-shirt. We'll be back, what's tomorrow, Saturday? Friday. Am I the only one who's lost track of things? I had to look at my calendar, so I've completely lost track of it.
Questions answered and how to find your
Yeah, so tomorrow we'll do our Your Questions Answered. So if anyone has any questions during the week that we don't get to on a particular video, or we get them via email, they were getting to be too many for us, and we know that we're all stuck indoors, or at least stuck from living our normal lives. So we're getting quite a few emails and comments. So we're going to try to do one video every week to answer those questions. It's a little bit of a random potluck of information. So we'll do that tomorrow. What's the second course tomorrow?
The
The
first
first
class
class.
is the Find Your Own Style in West Coast Swing.
Find your own style. So this is one that's happened, that's come up quite a bit, is how do I find my own style? So you learn something, a technique, and how do you implement that, or how do you not be a carbon copy of someone in your style? So we're going to talk tomorrow about how to find your own style in West Coast Swing. We'll also share in that, which you don't, I don't know who's going to do the course, all of us tomorrow? Who knows tomorrow? But we've also got some good written stuff, a West Coast Swing styling checklist, and some things that will help you guys along the way. And that's all I got. Saturday will be our Q&A. We've got some guests coming. I've been working on a couple of different guests. One is a good friend of mine, Marin Oslak, who has a pretty good history in West Coast Swing, as well as country dancing and ballroom dancing. She owns a studio up in Chicago. And another cool guy who you guys may have seen, Forrest Outman, who is a dance historian. This guy is brilliant. He's a nerd. It's okay to be a nerd for the history of dancing, and he's taught me a lot about the history of West Coast Swing and how to understand dancing as it progresses through the decades. So we're working on getting him on. So if he's not on this Saturday, we'll work on him the following week. So don't miss that. Forrest Outman, it'll be our mystery West Coast Swing interview live chat. So I'm pretty, it's not an interview, it's just Forrest and I talking.
It's a conversation.
Yeah, it's a conversation, but I mean, if you have questions about the history of West Coast Swing, why dances change, how should dances evolve, should West Coast Swing go through a name change, crazy stuff. The history of two-step, all sorts of stuff. This guy travels the country, and when someone like me goes to a town, I might look for the local bourbon place, or I might look to go to a ball game. Forrest will go to the local library and look up dance history stuff, books. So when he talks, it's not just out of his brain. He literally, every time I've had a conversation with him, he will bring manuals and stuff to back up his claims of the history. So that's fascinating. He's actually changed my scope of understanding West Coast Swing through the last 20 years. So I'm super excited. We're working on getting him on. So that's coming up in the next week or two. And we'll continue this as long as we're on lockdown. So hope you guys stay safe, and we'll see you again, hopefully on a dance floor, if not a video, again soon.